Okay, so we're recording on my laptop. I don't know what the quality is going to be giving, but I'm going to do a book review, discussion of my wrapped, I guess, for all the books that I read in 2025. Pagebound. It's an alternative to Goodreads. Pagebound was made by these two people. Like, it's self-funded also as well. Jennifer and Lucy. One person is a designer, one person is a developer. They've been working together to make this really cool site. It's very interactive. You can join quests, which is really cool. You are trying to read X amount of books in X amount of genres or type of subplots or type of storylines. It gives you examples of different quests you can join. You set your own goals and it helps you keep track of it. You're not constantly, but you can write in forums as you're reading. So you're like, oh, I'm this percent done with the book. This is a quote that I really liked. Or I'm this percent into the book. This is crazy. Or just like having your open thoughts and dialogue and people can discuss and respond to you. You can also do reviews. You're reading different people's reviews and ratings of the books. And I like that it breaks down the rating. It's not just an overall rating. You can do just a general overall rating, but then you can do enjoyment out of 5, quality out of 5, characters out of 5, and plot out of 5. So cool, so fun. You can also, to describe it, put 3 little emojis, which I think is really cute. I think on Goodreads it has these kinds of breakdowns, but I like this color-coded changing setup where it has a to be read, interested, reading, or rereading if it's listed that you've read it before, did not finish, and a paused, which is really fun, and then the option for none. You can also say whether you own the book or not. I like that it gives you a wrapped about the books you read in a year, your average rating. You get points. I don't really understand the point and badges system yet because I've not fully explored this. Like, I'm barely even following people, interacting with people. Tells you how many posts, all that you've done. It's really cool, really fun, and it's just keeping track of it in a nice way. And it's nice to have a digital. I've been doing it analog. I think you could see from my previous years where I have my book journal, which I still have. I was going to do Goodreads, but then I heard about Pagebound and was like, wait, I would love to support a small, growing, independent business that seems a lot more fun, interactive, and more communal. So that's what I did. Okay, so now that I've talked about Pagebound for the first start of the video for no exact reason other than to just talk about it because I think it's cool and interesting, let's get into the books I read. According to Pagebound, I read 38 books. It might be like 39 because I read a lot of manga and specifically Dandadan, and some of the reading that I was doing was just online, so they weren't in volumes yet. I was just counting as Dandadan because I get confused about counting manga as books, but I should, like, reading manga is reading. You're reading, period. So I count it as a book. How to break it up when I was just reading online, I was like, the last parts of Dandadan that I read, I think I read up to chapter like 211 or something. And they weren't in like split into volumes yet when I was reading it, and I don't think it's fully caught up in volumes to all that I've read, but I'm not fully caught up in the manga at all. So that's so many books I read. I started off 2025 reading Pachinko. I rated this book 5 stars. Like, I really liked it. I got it as a gift for Christmas. I honestly thought this shit ate down. You are following a family across different generations, and it's set in a time period and area, because it's set in Korea and Japan, that I don't have the lived experience of knowing about and understanding, and it would really put things into an interesting perspective for me. Watching these people or learning about these people in such a just blatant way, if that makes sense. Like, you're seeing different stages of love, pain, grief, understanding their joys, and it's just them experiencing it. It's very human stories. You're not seeing heroes and villains. You're just seeing a family as it's growing and changing across multiple generations. It's very cool. As I said, I was reading a lot of Dandadan for volumes 1 through 7. I read and finished while I was reading Pachinko, like in between. Generally, like 4.5 ratings. It's fun action, it's humor, but I don't think it's for everybody because there's been a lot of discourse, discussion, whatever, about not the art, but like the demonstration of like weird off SA-esque situations, or like them not wearing clothes in random times. It is weird, but I can't lie, I'm enjoying it. Like, I can't even front. Like, I think it's got an interesting story. It's got a cute little romance subplot, but the action's really fun. Backstories of the characters is really like heart-wrenching at times, or just warming and comforting, and you grow to love the characters even when they're weird or annoying. Then I started reading the Dune books. Wanted to read Dune because I had seen the original Dune movie that was out, I think, in like 1984. Wanted to get into sci-fi one summer. I was like, I just feel like this is something I could get into, I could enjoy. And I was like, well, Star Wars, they're movies. I want to watch some movies, you know? And then I looked online, and they had 18 billion different ways you could watch everything, different ways you could understand everything, different ways to do it chronological, this, that, and the third. And I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not doing this. It's stressing me out. Saw Dune had one movie, and I was like, click. Wanted to put it on as a little background. You could not blink, or you were missing mad fucking details. Then, more recently, the newer Dune movies coming out. I was like, fuck it. Should I read the books? In some store, I don't know, they had the series set of 3 books. I was like, 1 to 3 books in the series. I'm like, perfect, great. Then I started looking into it more, and was like, I thought series is like 4 or more. Wouldn't it say trilogy if there's 3 books? So I was like, hold the fuck up, how many books are in Dune? Looked online, that shit said 29. I almost gave the fuck up. I was like, oh, we're not reading this. But the first 6 were written by Frank Herbert, and then the later ones were continued by Brian Herbert, which is Frank's son, as he continued to explore the world of his father in these Dune books that are so expansive in their world building and their world politics and their world religions and everything, that you really could just keep writing about it forever. Honestly, it's such a deeply cared about, thought out, intentional writing that puts you into the story, puts you into a setting that you can really understand and build from. So it makes sense that you'd want to continue the story and build more and build off of it. And I don't know in all the ways that Brian did, because I'm not reading those. I'm going to read the first 6 that were written by Frank, maybe sprinkle in a couple of the other ones in life, but it was too much for me. We'll see, because I have read the first 4, and in 2025, and I was eating that shit up, I can't lie. But it took me a while to read. The first Dune book took me 2 months to read. I started in February, finished in April. I had initially rated it 8.3 out of 10, because I do things out of 10 to get a little more specific, you know? Does such a great way of creating visuals and world building. You're really invested into the story and all that's going on, and it's so complex. So I really wonder, if I hadn't seen the movies and hadn't seen these other visual representations, if I would be able to catch on to the world building in the same way, or create it in the same way as descriptively, having already had some things to base an idea off of for what the world would look like. But there's also some interesting differences from the books to the movies. So I'm interested to see how that plays out, having read so many at this point. I read the next Dune book, which also took a little bit, but I liked 2 more than the first one, maybe because the world is already built, and so I'm jumping in and just understanding a bit more. I gave it like a 9 out of 10, I think. I wanted to rate it higher because I love the story, but there is a weird like age gap romance, which that should just be triggering me. But there's so many stuff with like romance, sex, and sexuality that I personally am like, ugh, I can't do. I have so many specific pet peeves or nitpicky weird things about it. And it's so hypocritical as well, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't do this, disgusting, over, and then other times I'm like, this is perfectly fine in certain instances. So I don't know, I'm like weird about it, which I'm sure everybody is about their opinions. We're all hypocritical, we're all constantly contradicting ourselves with things like this with our opinions, because thoughts can change, and it's all subjective. But the weird sexualization of one of the characters, I don't know how much to say, because I don't want to spoil in case people are reading it, even though these books are 40 years old. Also, like, big ups to Frank Herbert and all that he did for sci-fi and just the ideas that he created, the development of them. It's so cool, so interesting, and so fun to really start with Dune because of how much it really was foundational for other sci-fi. Really did enjoy the book, but I don't know how much that is skewed because my copy had an introduction written by Brian, so the son of the original author, that spoke about how people didn't like this book as much because it takes our main character, and instead of having him a hero like in the first book, it shows more nuance and more change and error or people disagreeing with him, watching his development as a character and facing the consequences of his actions instead of just being explicitly and only a hero. It was really cool. It was interesting to see, and it's more realistic. Brian pointing out that audiences didn't appreciate that made me want to appreciate it more, so I feel like there might have been a bias in that, but bias or not, like, I really did like it. I really enjoyed it. The next book I read was One of Our Kind by Nicola Yoon, who I've been wanting to read more of. I've been wanting to read her books for a while. I rated this an 8.6 out of 10. I enjoyed the book. I thought it was interesting, and because it's like a horror-esque story, horrifying in the concept for me personally, I found myself genuinely being stressed and pleading for a happy ending for the main character while I'm reading it. Like, I was really invested in it, even though I did not like the main character. I found her so annoying, so insufferable, but I felt like it was important to the story for the way she was, to help elevate the horrors of the story in the right way. But the like blacker and holier than thou perspective was aggravating, and maybe that's something I need to face about my own insecurities and my blackness. But not everybody in the world has insecurities about their blackness. What? Black people, Black Americans, is the only experience I can speak on and deem to understand, have different understandings and comforts and attachments to their blackness. Like, I remember seeing something, this is a mini rant, unrelated, but like related to the story, but unrelated, that talked about, people talk about the mixed race experience, and people talk about like, I'll never know if I'm black enough, or this, that, and the third, but you don't have to be mixed race to have that experience about feeling black enough, or having your blackness questioned, or having to prove your blackness and prove your attachment to the culture and prove your advocacy for it. That happens across the spectrum, across the Black diaspora, of trying to be like, oh, am I black enough? Do I feel black enough? Am I confident, content, and secure in my blackness? You don't have to be a mixed kid to feel that. So it could just be my general insecurities on my blackness and comfort with that, but I feel like I'm secure in my blackness, but we don't know. I'm so young, I'm so changing, I'm still learning, whatever the fuck. But it probably was me checking my own biases or insecurities that were sneaking through when I would get annoyed by certain things that the character said. The character would face criticism on things that I also found was critical of, but the characters that were criticizing her were gaslighting her, and like the bad guys, like, they weren't saying it right, or they weren't pushing it, like, it just didn't work, like, so no one could call her on her shit because it was just gonna prove her right. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm glad I pushed through to finish, and understanding how her strong character helps the plot, is important to the plot, is a major juxtaposition of the ending, and like so relevant to have. And my annoyance with her, or disagreements with her, did not change my caring and empathizing for her and her character. Like, I wanted her to succeed, I wanted her to win, I was following her through and through, I was stressing for her, I was like, girl, we gotta do X, Y, and Z, come on, love, come on. What's scary and sad about the way that she policed blackness and was so judgmental, but she still got in the situation she got into, even with that being said, even with that being her mindset and her ideas, but it was really good. Then I took a trip down memory lane, a little bit of nostalgia, and I read the XXXholic Omnibus, like the first one. This was my favorite anime growing up. I was so excited to read it, and just like hoping that it'd hold up, hoping that I'd still enjoy it. And because it's been so long since I'd watched it, I still could read things like and get a comfortable nostalgia without having things spoiled or remembering everything, so I could still feel like I was kind of reading it for the first time, because different things were introduced to me that I'd forgotten about, or that might have been different from the manga to the anime. I was excited to know what happened next. It was a comfort for me, just the nostalgia of it all. Like, I had to rate it 5 stars because I just ate that shit up. I was so excited, and to be reacclimated with the characters and into the world and everything. Then I read This Is Where It Ends, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I had started reading this book randomly like a decade ago in a Walmart with my mom while she was shopping, and I was just like, I'm bored, let me start reading something. Then we didn't buy it. I put it down, forgot the title, or couldn't remember where I found it, and then saw it at like a Savers and was like, let me get this shit, let me read it. It's kind of following a different perspective of different kids during a school shooting, and it's going like by the hour, I think. So that was definitely an emotional ride. Once they started flowing, the tears, like, they did not stop. They just kept coming, but it didn't start until near the end of the book. I think it's interesting that the author is writing about this perspective, not having been a teenager in America in this active, like, apocalyptic time of mass shootings and the fear and suspicion of daily being scared about whether you could live or die, and like a place that's supposed to be secure, a place that's supposed to be safe. It's interesting that someone else would want to write about that, but it makes perfect sense. Not even criticisms, because I enjoyed the book. I thought it was good. It's just I didn't enjoy it to the fullest. Like, I couldn't find myself giving it more than 4 stars. I don't know why though. I read volumes 8 to 18 of Dan and really enjoyed those. A lot of 5 stars, a lot of 4.5 stars, some 4s. Really fun action, really fun backstory. It's like the same thing that I said earlier applies to this. I just was reading more of it. But then I read Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulek. I've not been saying the author's names, whatever. This book I borrowed from a friend. It was a really quick read that kept me engaged with interesting twists for sure. And I'm going to talk a bit with spoilers. So spoilers, skip ahead. When I was reading it, like, I knew from the jump some weird shit was off about those parents, bro. The way the story built on this murder case of like centuries old, I was like, how could these young current day people have any interaction with this old ghost? Like, I was trying to piece it together, could not figure it out. Also, the random ass gender confusion that happened for the child was so random, and like, I guess kind of made sense because there was like little breadcrumbs of it, but it felt unnecessary. It was just weird. I was invested in the story for sure. Then I read volumes 19 to 21, and over that, because I was reading the stuff online of Tandaran and ate that shit up as well. Then we make it to the 3rd Dune book. The quality of the book was A1. Like, characters perfect, plot was perfect. Just my enjoyment. Like, I couldn't give it a full 5 stars. Because I could not fuck with the fuck ass kids. Like, I hated them as a concept, and I know that's the point. Like, they're weird, they're off, like, we're not supposed to understand them, and I understand them, but I just hate it as a concept. These fuck ass kids. And that's like, even if I want to spoil it, Dune is so vast and so specific, and you would literally have to start from part 1 to really get you into to understanding why these kids are fuck ass kids. But if you've read this book, you understand these fuck ass kids. I'm gonna do like some spoilers, so I'm gonna be talking ramblings that like would be spoilers if you understood what was going on. So if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I do not care how many lives that they have access to. Technically, I do too, you know? If I wanted to sit and connect in my ideas of like spirituality and lifetime and those kinds of things, connect with the ancestors, I could have access to their consciousness. I just don't have access to their consciousness now, but I could work to get that. And that would not take away from me and who I am and how old I am and what I exist as, because I still have my own individual identity, and I still understand that and pursue it and exist with it. But because I wasn't born with my understanding of my ancestors, that was literally the kids themselves coming to get me. Because why did my fucking everything start tweaking out? I don't even know where I was in my rant. Being born with that attachment to your ancestors, it's hard to develop your sense of self and your individuality and your personhood. What the fuck? Okay, and I get that. I would still be my age. Like, I don't like them talking like they're old. They're not. You yourself aren't. Your knowledge of the world is vast, but you are still a kid, bro. Like, I don't know. And I guess it's a point, and that's how other people are feeling, and they are trying to explain that to them. But fuck, like, I hate it. It icks me out. It's so unsettling. And the weird, like, incestuous ass overlap or like illusions and that, but that's because of the Bene Gesserit breeding and weird shit. Like, it makes sense, and I know it's supposed to be off-putting, but it's off-putting. Like, bro, what the fuck? But it is good. Like, I would recommend the books. They're good to read. It's just a mind fuck. And fuck these fuck ass kids. Like, I'm swearing so much, but like, yuck. But in terms of the world building and the placement and everything, like, it was so slow in the beginning, slow to build, similar to the first Dune, as more understanding of the world and how it works is written about in this book. Watching everything fall into place in that final third and like seeing all the connections and everything come together was so beautiful and so satisfying. Like, ate up. I truly love that the Dune books aren't just simple stories about heroes and villains, but they're nuanced, and it shows the trials and tribulations of flawed leaders and their doubtful or unwavering followers, and it illustrates like complex natures of the human condition and real life, like mirrors real life politics, religion, understanding, groups, community. Like, such an interesting, beautiful, synergetic, I'm just saying shit, just like, I still liked the second one, Messiah, more than Children of Dune, but I like Children of Dune more than the first Dune book. Oh, The Forgotten Girls by Sarah Bladel. Quick and easy reading, obviously minus some of the words were Danish, and that tripped me up a little bit because I don't understand Danish words, and that slowed down my reading, but it was good. I could guess the plot twists and resolves, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the reading. I saw this quote online, but it talked about how the point of a plot twist or development in a story shouldn't be at least, to trick or confuse the audience. It's not supposed to be something to outsmart the reader. A good twist has breadcrumbs and foreshadowing in it that helps the reader understand the how and why of what it's happening, so you can guess the plot twist, you can see what's happening, it makes sense to you, but you're still enjoying as the story unfolds and comes together. And I've been trying to do that more, instead of being like competitive with the creators of the film, to be like, oh, I knew the plot twist, I knew this. Yeah, because they set everything up for you to know. They set things up for you to understand X, Y, and Z. They set things up in these ways for you to be able to see the patterns, for you to be able to foreshadow, for you to be able to understand what's going on and be invested in the story and not be lost and confused. Because when there's bad plot twists, people aren't able to guess it. They're like, oh, this makes no sense. There's no crumbs. There's no this. Like, how did this even happen? Then you're not enjoying the story as well, because there's not the continuity of it. The author isn't always trying to challenge me or my intellect. I can just enjoy it. The main character did annoy me a bit, and I feel like her character could have been fleshed out a bit more, but I think based on the way it was written and what happens so frequently with like these crime, thriller, detective type stories, is that there's a lot of stories from this character's perspective, following different cases, so you learn more about the character as you're reading more of it, and I think I just need to read more to fully understand her. Also, the little small nod to a romance snuck up a bit in its intensity, but I think it was fun, and we saw it coming, we were rooting for it. So these were books that I read on my Alaska trip. Absolute Fear, The Green Mile, God Emperor of Dune, so the fourth Dune book, and Tender is the Flesh, because we road tripped banging them bitches out. For me, I'm a really slow reader, so in like a 2-week span, having read 4 books, crazy for me. Absolute Fear. This was another whodunit type of story. Followed a bunch of different characters and switched perspectives, which was really interesting. I rated this book an 8.3 out of 10 or 4 out of 5 stars. So there was so much happening. It held my attention so strongly, like it was really hard to put down. I also really enjoyed the distinction between how sex and sexuality was written from the perspective of the killer versus the other characters, because the author really made him feel creepy like as a real sick fuck in layman's terms, you know? Even the way he spoke of bodies and their desires, like, made it so uncomfortable and off. But when sex and sexuality was spoken or discussed or experienced by the main characters, like the other characters outside of the killer, even when it was something that was supposed to be taboo or the wrong thing to do, it didn't have that same feeling of like discomfort or like off-putting, like skin shedding ick that happened with the other stories or the other perspectives, like of the killer. As I'm putting it into pagebound or Goodreads, I'm seeing that there is other series for it, which makes sense because as I was reading stuff, there was background about the characters that seemed to be skimmed over, like just like a side comment that I would love to hear more about and understand, like invest more, because there are so many characters in it, and just to learn more about what they're doing, what's going on with them would have been fun. And I think I just need to find those books because there is more. It just felt really rushed, but it probably wasn't as important to this story. Like, it's just some context if you've never read these other books, but you probably would understand it'd be fun and wouldn't need or want a rehashing of everything if you have read the other books in the series. The epilogue of the book made it seem like there is a sequel of some sort, a continuation of the series. So I think I just need to read more of it. I thought it was really interesting. There were fun twists towards the end, and I thought it was really intriguing and fun as everything got tied together. But I did, like, it had one of my pet peeves, because the resolve of the book or the explanation all came out in like a villain's monologue as they explained everything, like this is why this is happening and this is like putting two and two together. It's not as well breadcrumbed with other things because the villain gives a monologue to the main characters like, and this is why I did this and this is why I did this and this is how this happened, which I'm like, you could have done better than that. But I still liked the book up. Like, I still enjoyed it. It was still good. I also felt like, obviously this is my bias and discomfort with sex and sexuality, whatever, but I felt like everyone's a little too horned up in the situation. Like, if there's a killer on the loose and you're feeling targeted, like, why are you fucking so much? But hey, to each their own, to each their own. I'm not here to shame. I read The Green Mile next, and this let me set the scene. I'm reading, I'm sobbing, my heart is broken, the GPS is not working, we're on a long trip in the middle of Canada with no service, my friend is the driver, it's stressing, music's not working, it's silent, I'm just crying, she thinks I'm asleep, like, I'm so locked into the book. Should have been supporting my friend a bit more in her drive journey, but I couldn't. I was so fucked up from the book, and then when my friend was like, wait, what the hell, why are you crying, or registered after, and I was telling her, I didn't even talk about the book for a while because it just fucked me up so much. It was so good. I want to give a full 5 stars, but I couldn't because it's always weird as fuck when modern white authors write about the past and use the N-word or slurs or like similar profanities. Like, this story is good, but what compelled you specifically to want to write it? You know what I'm saying? It's also, couldn't give the full 10 stars because it's mystifying an all too true story and all too true horror that exists for Black people in America or Black people around the world, honestly, but where an innocent Black man is slain, killed, martyred for the crime of simply being Black, for the crime of being Black in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, I don't need to be reminded of this to feel the horror of it, because you kind of live it every day in the back of your mind. But yeah, I also didn't need magic or gifts from God or anything special, supernatural to see a Black man's humanity and believe their innocence and trust in them. But, you know, maybe I wasn't the target demographic for the book. Even with all this ranting and raving aside, I still like the book up. Like, I still read the fuck out of it. I still enjoyed it. It still moved me super strongly. It was horrifying in the ways that it makes sense to be horrifying. And I know there's a movie. I want to see it, but I don't know if I can. We'll see. A devastating book. And luckily, I am someone who enjoys books that rip my heart out, stomp on it, and spit on it. So then I read God, Emperor of Dune, which is the 4th Dune book, which is the best Dune book. Obviously, I haven't read them all. I've only read 4 out of 29. This was everything. Initially wanted to give a low rating because there was so much that I didn't understand right away. Then I started to get it more as I read it, and I want to keep rereading it because I feel like this is a book like you get so much more the more times you read it, which happens with every book, every piece of media, everything you do. If you do it more than once, you'll understand it more and understand it better. But this is like, I could reread this, I could relive this and just experience it in a different way, a different perspective every time. And I think it would eat. Also so interesting because the style of this book was different than the other Dune books. Like there's a lot more dialogue heavy, which makes it a quicker read because the world has been built. It's so well understood, you can just jump right in. I also thought that this deconstruction and comparison of sex to other things throughout this book was really interesting. I was really invested into each individual character. Even though we as a reader get an omnipotent, omnipresent perspective, you're still invested in each person as an individual, even when they're on contradicting sides. Even like you're just learning so much about the world and their perspective and their worldviews. And again, because the Dune books don't have like a clear villain, a clear hero, you're just in the world as people feel like they're doing what is right and trying to place where you on your moral compass, on your moral integrity, where you would fit, where you would align, who you would align with, and what makes sense. Honestly, like a perfect book. Like I honestly really liked it. Tender is the flesh, and this got a 5 stars for me. What can I say? I love a dystopian story. Want to be like shit ate down, but you know it doesn't feel appropriate. Ending got me. It surprised me, but didn't at the same time. Like I feel like it's exactly what you expect, but also not. The main characters were following him and seeing how he exists in this world, in this dystopian era, and we're hearing his guilt and reading it. Like he's still no better than other people, even as we hear his guilt, even as it eats him alive, because life is still just normal. His guilt is just normal, it's just expected, and he still just pushes forward, still just continues on like everybody else, even if he seems like we want to be like he's holier than thou, he's better because he's aware of it and feels bad. But I'm sure everyone like it just puts an interesting perspective on it. Very good. Then I read Kafka on the Shore. I rated 9.3 out of 10. I think it's a weird story of broken people in delirium. I think it's a great book for discussions and open minds. There's like weird shit that happens in it that makes me be like, I don't know if I would recommend this to a lot of people, or at least the people that I'm in circles with, because we don't have the same interests and understand like appreciation for the world. Not appreciation, just like open-mindedness. Like you have to have an open mind for certain things that are happening in the story. And I fear that if I recommend this to people and then they read it and they're like, oh, you like this? Like you thought this was really good? Like I don't want to be judged, even though it is really good and people should do it. I just feel like there will be weird, wild assumptions about me if I recommend this. It's a good book, but it's a weird book, and I feel like people should read it, but someone else needs to recommend it to them, and they need to find it on their own. And then come to me because I know I'm judge-free and talk to me about it when they're like, okay, I read this weird book, but I think you'd understand. That I'm fair with. But me being like, you should read this book, and they're like, hey, that's a weird book, why do you like it so much? You know, I don't know, but it keeps you curious and dubious and debating, and you're just invested in it, into all the characters, into the world, seeing the different lenses. It just makes you think. It's a book that's really like, not introspective, but like, maybe it is. Like, you're just thinking a lot. It's a cerebral book. The next book that I read was A Kingdom of Salt and Stone by Liv Webster. This is the first book in a trilogy that is not completed yet. I'm still waiting. The next book comes out in June. New young author coming to the scene that is delving into the romantasy genre, and I have been wanting to start reading romantasy because I've heard so many fun things about it. A lot of like discussions about books online I feel like are romantasy. I feel like I hear just that pairing together. When at my previous job, a lot of people read romantasy and would recommend romantasy books, and so I was like, let me dip my toe in. That was disgusting. I'm sorry, y'all. And why not support like a young up and coming author while I do it? So I will buy this book, I will read it, and I will hopefully enjoy it. And it was good. Overall 4 stars. Enjoyment 5. Ate this book up. Quality 4 stars. It is someone's first book, and there's tweaks here and there that could obviously happen, but I thought it was good. Like I'm rating this while knowing this is like a first-time author. This is their first published work. This is the first, and I'm putting that all in mind with context. I gave the characters a 3.5 and the plot a 4.5 because there are certain things that were a little tropey that I feel like they could build and grow the characters out more, flesh them out more, but also it's a trilogy, so maybe there's more plans later on to expand on these characters as things happen throughout. So it was really fun, interesting concept, beautiful map printed on the first pages of the story. I think it's a great book to help ease me into the genre, and I'm excited for the continuation of the series. I think the world building was fun to hear and learn about, particularly with regards to the gods and the physical setting. The book includes a map, obviously, but there's descriptions of the oceans and the scenery and everything that made the world itself seem so beautiful. I feel like there being gods that isn't necessarily religious aspect, but it's demonstration of their theology in some way, shape, or form that exists. And the gemstones and all that. It's just fun and cool. There's also a heavy focus on mental health that represented both the highs and lows. So if you're irritated with characters or frustrated with characters, it's like showing like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, this is this. And even if you have a mindset that's like, hey, that's not the right thing to do, that's not the healthy thing to do, the characters are still doing them, and they might even be aware of the like self-sabotage or the destruction of themselves. That's the same thing, actually, but like they err in their ways, or they might not be because they're too overwhelmed by their own anxiety, they're too overwhelmed by their own traumas to like see forward facing what they're doing and how it's interacting with their community, the people around them, to demonstrate the actual implications and effects of mental health crises on the people around them is cool to see in a book. Also feel like that could be developed more, played with more, or watching as the characters grow and change and maybe develop different coping skills, or don't. Even if they don't, like seeing how it continues throughout the story will be interesting, because it doesn't need to be a perfect automatic turnaround, because that's not how mental health works. Growth and healing is not linear. There's peaks and valleys, there's ups and downs. It changes so much, so that's gonna be fun to see. And yeah, I'm excited to see how the author's writing grows, develops, and changes as they progress in their author career. Frankenstein. I read Frankenstein and I felt about it the same way everyone felt about it. Like 5s across the board for overall, for enjoyment, for quality, for characters, for plot. This is such an amazing book and can be viewed and critiqued from so many different lenses, and it has been, because it's such an age-old classic. Like, I've already seen so many video essays. I want to watch every movie that's ever been made. I just would love to see more discourse, discussion, conversations about this story. It was so good. I think of the allusions to fatherhood or absentee fatherhood. I think of shame and misery of artists and their vulnerable creations. I think of power and control and how that plays into who we are and what we do and make. I think of accountability. I think of rejection. I think of the misery of a wretched thing. Like that particularly, I'm like, I think of misery. Like, you learn about the history of the author and what that she was going through in her life and her life story, and how it makes perfect sense for this to be a book that she writes, for this to be something that she creates, to be created and left and feeling like you've been abandoned by your creator, abandoned by God, abandoned by religion, like forced to be a wretched thing, to be a monster because the person that created you made you a monster. I think of the curdling of love into a festering hate. I think of grief and its corruption of the mind. I think of nature versus nurture. I think of what it means to create, what it means to be a parent, what it means to be a developer, what it means to build something from the ground up, and to have to take accountability, ownership, and pride in the things that you make. What I understood also from just the general zeitgeist about Frankenstein and his monster is more than and very different from what actually happens in the book. Like the lightning bolts, the pyrophobia, and an assistant in his lab did not appear at all, bro. Like, I was like, what the fuck? All that shit was just made up for a movie? I guess so. Also, for Victor's first thought about his creation is to call it beautiful, and then I don't know if it's the weight of what he's done that hits him or the responsibility, but suddenly for the rest of the book it's a wretched, ugly thing. It's an evil thing. I was like, you made this. Like, is it beautiful solely because you succeeded at what you set out to do? Is beauty existing only in your pride in yourself? your mind and your work is beautiful, but the tangible work itself is not. It's not what you expected. Like, what had you expected when you made this thing? Like, you fucking made it, sir, and held no accountability. Victor sucks, and I think everyone agrees and everyone understands that. Literally, fuck that guy. Like, you only made a monster because you were intent on creating a monster. You know what I'm saying? And, like, there's no reason for it as well, because you can't even blame, like, his upbringing, his like, beautiful family, beautiful support system, all these things, and you just give up on the thing that you, like, what the fuck? Shout out Mary Shelley. She was like 18, 19, 20, like, when she was writing and publishing this book, and, like, going through so much. Like, it's just, it's crazy, and it's amazing. And then the final book that I read in 2025 was The Song of Achilles. And this book, A down, 9.2 out of 10. I had just finished reading the book, and I just wanted to rate it a 10 out of 10 because I was feeling everything so strongly. It was so romantic, so powerful, so moving. But I have to deduct for any aspect of explicit teen sexuality. I know it's real and honest, but some things I just can't let slide. Other times I can, but maybe I'm letting this slide more than others. It's also just great writing. Like, I love beautiful, flowery, poetic writing, especially in a romantic book, but especially in non-romantic books where it's just, like, unnecessarily beautiful, unnecessarily romantic writing, and, like, the story is not of romance, but it creates romance of the world. I love that. But this was a romance, so it made perfect sense. I also would love to have discussions with people about it. There was some discussion questions even in the back of the copy of the book that I got, which is really cool. I love the idea that it's a retelling. I felt everything so strongly that I felt, whether I was disgusted, enraged, anxious, or kicking my feet, blushing, cheesing. Like, I was moved to feel so much on such a wide scale. And the romance was sweet and dramatic, and it was everything I needed to be. I cannot lie, other than maybe a little older. You know, maybe a little bit. You know, certain aspects of the age are necessary to the story to, like, really put you in there. It's, like, crazy to think about. I was like, damn, these are kids doing this. But yeah, that was it. This is going to be such a long fucking video, and I really hope when I was talking shit on Dune and everything wanted to shut down, I really hope that video recorded and worked. But that was all the books that I read in 2025. I've already read a couple books in 2026. I'm on, I think, my third book this year, and it's still January. So that's really good for me. My goal is to read 20 books. I've been saying 12, but I've been surpassing 12 for the past couple years. So I think 20 books in 1 year is my goal. Like, there are some people that are reading like 100 books a year, 200 books a year. I'm not that girl. I'm not that boy. Like, I'm not that guy. I can't do all that, but I want to get as close to it as I can, and maybe that's 10%. But I've been really enjoying reading. I really enjoy pagebound and how it's set up and how it's so communal, and it makes me want to read more. So I think once I get more comfortable and once I get a library card, because I have moved and need to get a new library card, which is so annoying, I'm gonna join a quest so I can read more genres and, like, really enjoy things more and, like, interact with the forums more. I think it's so cool. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sitting through my rambling and talking about books. I think as time goes on, if I do end up reading more books, I can split it up a little bit better and discuss it a little bit better, because some books I talked about a lot, some books I talked about a little. I enjoyed pretty much everything I read this year, so maybe I'm getting better at picking books that I know that I'll like, or maybe, as always, I'm just not a harsh reviewer, because I think about all the work that someone put in, or the fact that they felt pride enough in it to publish it, and it's hard for me to rate things badly. I'm Brighton and Raven. Hope you have a good start to your 2026. I hope you're having a good new year. I hope you're bringing in good energy. I hope you're enjoying, if you're reading, or enjoying just the media you're consuming, and doing well. Bless.